Boro Aboye. So today we celebrate the life and the legacy of the great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And for those of us who are practitioners of Orisa lifestyle, it's important that we examine Dr. King's life and legacy through the lens of our tradition. It's important that we look for traces of Dr. King's thought and his delivery in the verses of Ifa, in the Oriki. It's important that we look at the lives of the Orisha themselves and try to understand what Dr. King means to us. Now, of course, for strictly entertainment value, people are going to speculate about Dr. King's likeness to one Orisha or another. And depending on what you know about Dr. King and what you know about the Orisha, you're going to affiliate him with one or the other, right? It's cute. It's provocative in a way. And I'm sure it's great to get certain kinds of conversations going. But don't allow yourself to get stuck in that kind of silly, low level, parallel conversation. Dr. King must have been a child of this Orisha or that Orisha because this or that or that. The trivial, superficial information. What you need to know about Dr. King is that for all of the thousands and thousands of speeches that he gave in the North and the South and the East and the West, before that speech and after that speech, you know what Dr. King did? Dr. King went to meetings. Dr. King went to meetings in churches and in community centers and in courthouses and all over the black community, and he mobilized people. He activated people, okay? He delegated authority. He set boundaries. He gave people deadlines. He created timelines. He followed up with 1, 2, 3 people. He had to cross over. He had to meet with people who didn't like him. Not all black people loved Dr. King. Some people were terrified about Dr. King's position because he was going to upset the balance. He was challenging the status quo that a lot of people got their comfort and their identity from. And Dr. King said, this isn't going to work anymore. And he didn't just talk about it. He actively mobilized black people around it. He led our people. He didn't just talk, he led. Okay, and that's crucial. One of my favorite speeches of Dr. King that really epitomizes his leadership is a speech that I always share on his birthday, which is, what's your blueprint for life? Or what's the blueprint of your life? Something like that. And I love the speech because he's delivering it to a group of children at a public school in Philadelphia. And in the speech, you're going to notice that he doesn't talk about Jesus. He doesn't talk about Moses. He doesn't talk about Revelations or 1 John or Deuteronomy or any books of the Bible, any kind of Christian concepts at all. What he talks about is destiny. What he talks about is your capacity as a person of African descent to claim your identity, to assert your identity, and to carry out your mission as a person of African descent in a way that will be of service to your calling in the world, but also of service to the broader community. He talks about making a meaningful contribution that will survive you and make that contribution regardless of what your role is. Right? Where I'm talking about, never mind beads, pots, and titles, Dr. King is talking, but never mind what your role is. If you're a street sweeper, that's the analogy he gives. If you're a street sweeper, be the best street sweeper that you could be. Being a street sweeper, in other words, doesn't limit your ability to make a contribution. Right? And because you are a Orisha priest or an Orisha priestess, or you wear these beads or those beads, it doesn't mean that epitomizes your contribution either. Right? You got to get down to what you can do, how you can do it, who you can do it with, and how it can be brought to a higher and higher and higher level based on what? Based on the service and the value that you create as a person of African descent. Because in the beginning of the speech, and I hope you look it up, it's what's the blueprint for your life. He starts off very pointedly talking to black children, and he's telling them, don't get caught up in trying to lighten your skin. Don't get caught up in trying to straighten your hair. Don't get caught up in trying to look and fit in with a certain kind of an appearance. those things don't matter. What matters is your ability to optimize your natural gifts and talents, not for vain pursuits, but in service to a greater calling. And that's why I love that particular speech of Dr. King. And that's what I want to urge every single Orisa devotee on the planet, particularly if you are an African American, wherever you may find yourself in the world. Go check this speech out. Look at Dr. King's life as the embodiment of what we call Ori, what your natural gifts and talents are, your providence, the things that you brought into the world, and the way that you have to express those things in the world in service to something greater than yourself. So let's honor Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. today by looking at who we are and finding more and more ways for each and every one of us to make a more meaningful contribution to our own lives and to the lives of the people who matter most to us today, tomorrow, and forever. Boro aboye, bo shishe.